Please, take a seat. any of the spiritual path. One wishes that one can actually serve the mankind in the ways that we can actually serve the mankind. The most is to be able to reach out with what one believes that is beneficial, knowledge and understanding of the truth. Truth that is universal, truth that actually transcends any culture, truth that can transcend any gender or races, truth that can actually simply appreciate it as a truth. In all different traditions of spiritual path, there are many teachings given on such truth. This book, it's up to you. Though I have assembled the knowledge here, but the knowledge comes from the Buddhist tradition and Buddhist teachings. And these teachings have been appreciated by generations after generations and practiced throughout the time since the Buddha has came into this world. As many great teachers in the past have tried to express the teachings of the Buddhist doctrine in a more accessible way in the modern world to the modern people. With emphasis on trying to understand how to take these teachings of the ancient Buddhist doctrine into the modern lifestyle, and how one can integrate and many great teachers such as late Neten Choling Rinpoche, who was incredibly genius in trying to express the teachings in a much more understandable way, much more accessible, and much more relevant to our modern lifestyles, modern mindsets. And thus then the benefit of the teachings has reached out wide range of people, and many of course became Buddhist, but many who have not become Buddhist but appreciated his teachings. Similarly, other teachers have tried to do that same. And it is also my own humble attempt to try to express the teachings in a much more accessible way, much more to be able to meet the modern time and modern times people's mind. Within the modern times, people like ourselves can still appreciate and still find much of the same kind of benefit as people did in the past. I'm very grateful that in Boulder, many have purchased the book, and many, of course, since has purchased the book, I hope they will read it. And that's my humble attempt and my humble wishes to be able to reach out with Buddhist teachings has been given a chance to serve. Once people already have read, I feel it's up to people of how they take on with the meanings of the book, as well as also their own interest in the spiritual path. So tonight, seeing this much of a crowd, I'm very also touched. I thank you all for coming. I appreciate if you are here to show an interest in the book. This book is, it's really not much about myself. It is about the audience. It is about the readers. It is about the readers having a chance to read a Buddhist teachings. And here, I would like to ask my wife Elizabeth to read from the book. As we go on, I'd like to make some comments.
Looking in the mirror. When we look in the mirror, the one thing we don't want to see is an ordinary human being. We would like to see somebody special. Looking in the mirror. When we look in the mirror, the one thing we don't want to see is an ordinary human being. When we look in the mirror, the one thing we don't want to see is an ordinary human being. We would like to see someone special. Whether we are conscious of this or not, we are simply not content to see an ordinary human being with neurosis, obstacles, and problems. We want to see a happy person, but instead we see someone who is struggling. We want to think of ourselves as compassionate, but instead we see someone who is selfish. We long to be elegant, but our arrogance makes us crass. And instead of a strong or immortal person, we see someone who is vulnerable to the four streams of birth, old age, sickness, and death. The conflict between what we see and what we want to see causes tremendous pain.
Now, from the Buddhist teachings point of view, we all have an enlightened nature. And this enlightened nature expresses itself with a longing to be happy and longing to be free from suffering. And that is the innate intelligent that exists in all beings. Now with this, of course we want to be happy. And when we are confronted with our own much of neurosis and struggle and the habits that presses us down, we feel conflicted. In a way, we feel we're not successful in our wish to be happy. Instead, we are confronted with our own mind and our own reflecting emotions and the habits that presses us down. So then there's the duality arises in ourselves. Wanting to be happy, but seeing that we are not happy, and seeing that what we are not happy with. And then also wanting not to see what we see inside of us, wanting to see some different things inside of us. And then this duality, finding oneself to be caught up in so many of the habits that presses us down and inflicting emotions that constantly brings us in a state of pain, makes us lose a lot of a sense of hope. But in the end, if one doesn't give up on the effort to be happy, if one doesn't give up in the interest of wanting to be happy through means of clarity and confidence in one's own mind. However, in the beginning, one finds oneself quite, maybe perhaps conflicted. One finds oneself caught in a duality of wanting to be good but not being good. Over the time, one can see that they are whole to change. There is much to appreciate about what we are confronted here, what we don't even like to see ourselves with, what we don't generally find comfort or happiness. We could find a much to appreciate. Well, being able to transcend them or shade them, and then thus through shading process, through transcending process, find our own inner true nature and find our own strength without going through the process of transformation or change or transcending or shading of one's own duality or what one sees that is not what one is quite happy in. There's no way to begin. One has to, just as one intends to be happy, one has to be happy. One, just as it intends to be on the path, one has to be perfect. Such thing is not possible. So there is, however, duality and sense of conflict. This conflict is where we start. This conflict is where we begin our spiritual path. This conflict is where we actually begin to work with our own mind. This conflict is where we begin to learn how to transcend, and how to shade, and how to discover our own true nature, and the qualities of our own nature. So, with this, then we have a much to appreciate this.
The pain of self-importance. We are imprisoned in this pain by a sense of specialness or self-importance. Self-importance is the underlying clinging we have to I, me, mine, which colors all of our experience. If we look closely, we find a strong element of self-importance in everything we think, say, and do. How can I feel good? What will others think? What will I gain? What will I lose? These questions are all rooted in our self-importance. Even our feeling of not measuring up to who we think we should be is a form of self-importance. We like to see ourselves as strong and in control, but we are more like a fragile eggshell that is easily broken. This makes us feel deeply vulnerable, and not in a good way. This vulnerable self requires protection, armoring, the gathering of forces, and the construction of walls. As a result, we become painfully trapped. We are increasingly fearful of relaxing with things as they are, and increasingly uncertain that anything will work out the way we would like. It takes courage to go beyond self-importance and see who we really are, but this is our path. The point of all Buddhist teachings, formal or informal, is to reduce self-importance and make room for the truth. This process begins with self-reflection.
Now, in the Buddhist teachings, in Tibetan, the word is dak jin zin. Dak is the star. Jin zin is the overly cherished, overly protected, with a tremendous overly emphasis of importance. Now this self-importance, as long as there's always, all of our psychological states, emotional states are going to be catering to cherish the self, protect the self. Whatever capacity we have in our own intelligence, whatever wisdom that we may have, whatever skillful means that we may have, is going to be all catering to that. Now in doing so, if we have found happiness, by now we should have found happiness. Because that's what has been going on. And we have not yet found happiness. Now, some care for one's own life, one's own need, one's own progress. There has to be, but the over-excessive love and care for oneself, which then gives a birth to tremendous amount of insecurities that one finds oneself not to be able to do that so, or not be able to do that so well enough. And then also feeling threatened. And then threatening, resorting into aggression and anger and violence. and jealousy. This kind of suffering comes from we ourselves putting our own self-importance in the center of our every attempt, every actions, every thought, every emotions. Now if one is to successfully become free of inflicting emotions, so as also negative habits, one has to be able to reduce the self-importance. By measurement of how one reduces one's self-importance, that much one is to gain freedom from all the negative habits, as well as also inflicting emotions, and so as also too much of overindulgence in one's own sense of self, cherishing it, protecting it. And such freedom gives a then a birth, or opening to put others in the center. Even if it is just in the mind, while we just simply are in the aspirational level to just serve others, but in reality we are not in any capacity to serve others, just in the aspirational level only. If we are able to put others in the center, the same love, the same care, the same kind thoughts, the same kind heart, the same compassionate thoughts, the same compassionate heart, the same kind of joy that one finds oneself to be happy when one is happy, when one is free from suffering. All of these emotions can immediately support us in our growth of our spiritual path. All of these emotions can immediately turn to become very valuable. Immediately those emotions can sustain us in our own well-being. These emotions, when it is led by self-importance, gave us so much of pain. When actually we pour it out towards others, just by cause and effect, our mind becomes much more freer, and our heart becomes much more open, and all of those emotions begins to touch us deeply and make our own life much more meaningful and content. So in a way, if there is embracing, we must embrace others with their love and care, and we must, for our kindness, heart, kind thoughts, compassionate heart, compassionate thoughts to others, and sympathetic joy towards others. For instance, if one is to be happy for one's own freedom and one's own gain of some positive thing in one's life, it's only one. And then also one happiness may be after tremendous struggle, after much of hard work, one might actually be able to get what one wants to get as a source of happiness. And then one can really be happy. But right away, as soon as we get happy with our own achievements, there is a taste of dissatisfaction right there. After a taste of dissatisfaction right there. But with others, if we could be happy on behalf of others, if we could be happy on behalf of others' freedom, others actually gain of positive things, how many times there is for us to be happy? Touch our own mind by others' freedom, touch our own mind by others' gain. That logic alone proves that how much of a greater opportunity for one's own, all of this good, positive things, which is governed by the self-importance, how it all goes down. But governed by the altruism, a sense of wish to touch others, benefit others. Everything then becomes much more of a positive. The same care, when it is in serving of one's own self-importance, there is the pain. When it is the same care in serving of others, there is the happiness. There is the freedom from one's own self-importance. Not only that, then there is the quality of one's own mind being able to touch oneself. So, as a discipline to reduce one's self-importance, to increase the opposite of self-importance, to increase the altruistic thoughts, loving and kindness and compassion and sympathetic joy towards others. How much that does not only provide us the freedom from our own self-importance, that we can't control ourselves, but also gives us a chance for our own mind to touch ourselves and sustain our own well-being. So therefore, in the Buddhist teaching, to be able to identify what the root of all the suffering is, and then thus to transform that, thus to change that. Here changing is only by practicing altruism, by in an aspirational level to start with, then to however one is capable of serving others, being engaged to serve others, how much this changes all of our lives' meaning and brings much of a contentment in our own hearts with our own good qualities.
Questioning spirit. The great Indian Pandita Aryadeva once said that to merely question. Okay. A questioning spirit. The great Indian Pandita Aryadeva once said that to merely question that things might not be as they seem can shake the very foundation of habitual clinging. This questioning spirit is the starting point for self-reflection. Could it be that this tightly knit sense of self is not what it seems. Do we really need to hold everything together, and can we? Is there life beyond self-importance? These kinds of questions open the door to investigating the cause of our pain. The actual practice of self-reflection requires us to step back, examine our experience, and not succumb to the momentum of habitual mind. This allows us to look without judgment at whatever arises, and this goes directly against the grain of our self-importance. Self-reflection is the common thread that runs through all traditions and lineages of Buddhist practice. It also takes us beyond the boundaries of formal practice. We can bring the questioning spirit of self-reflection to any situation at any time. Self-reflection is an attitude, an approach, and a practice. In a nutshell, it is a way to make practice come alive for us personally.
Buddha has said, examine my words like a goldsmith examines the gold. Do not take my words because it's my word on a faith. Now with this, then he encourages us to self-reflect. If we are to not be dogmatic about the teachings, we have to, what the teaching speaks to be the truth, examine it with our own mind. In order for us to examine it with our own mind, precisely and clearly, we have to stay objective. In order to stay objective, we have to not be judgmental. What is in our mind? Instead, we must be curious. We must come to understand how such thing comes to exist in our mind, and what could be done to change it, and how could we change it? Is it true from the self-importance all the afflicting emotions arise? If it is so, okay, how is this anger of mine, what I am actually right now confronted, what I am right now wanting to get over but could not get over, is coming from my own sense of self-importance? Is it true from my own sense of wanting to protect myself from a particular threat that I feel? Or if this threat that I feel results into this anger, aggression, then how is the threat is felt? Is it felt by wanting to protect the self? Or if there is that wanting to protect the self, then how is beyond that? There's the clinging so tightly in our own sense of self. And if we could actually somehow let go of that clinging to the self so dearly and not feeling so much needing to protect itself, then could that actually result into more of an opening for one to deal with the situation more sanely, more with the intelligence, more with the sense of skillful means? If that is so, then is it really important to hold on to our positions and our arguments and our points of view and try to defend ourselves with anger or aggression? Isn't it much more effective We just simply try to relax onwards to let go of the self-importance. Since we see this self-importance or clinging to the self is giving birth to all of this conflict. And if it is so, then you see how we learn to relax onwards to let go of that clinging to the self. This kind of questioning with a curiosity and open-mindedness, with not necessarily being biased to the Buddhist teachings, just simply from one's own experience, examining clearly brings oneself quite integrated with the teachings, and then confidence in the teachings. Once, when one finds oneself in this way, how our own mind is disturbed by our own self-importance, right away, when the truth is experienced, there comes intelligence, and so as also there comes a sense of naturally wanting to let go. Nobody wants pain. Nobody wants to indulge in pain. So then, the second step is going to be not about what is the cause of suffering. It is going to be much about how to work with the habits. Prior to that, it will be confusions about what is the cause of suffering. Once we have, from our own experience, not from hearsay, but from our own experience, from our own self-reflection, really have understood the teachings and felt the truth of the teachings in our own experience. Teachings is no more longer in the books. Teachings is no more longer belongs to a religion. Teachings is our own experience. Our own experience is the teachings. We begin to find our own experience telling the truth. Once that kind of a clarity is there, then to learn how to work with the habits, to know how to work with the habits, to gather the information how to work with the habits, to develop a resilient effort to counteract the habit that is there before, to bring down the old habit and to dissemble the old habit, becomes a joyful path, becomes a naturally something what one wants to do, as one wants to do anything for the happiness and for the freedom. So to be able to self-reflect without a sense of biased attitude, one must become quite open and curious with one's own experience.
People in the back are not really hearing her, right?
We should switch it back.
our true face. If we look at our habitual mind without deception or judgment, we will see beyond it to who we truly are. Beyond the self and what it does or doesn't want, beyond the self that is constantly fighting or tugging at the world, lies our true nature and true face. This is the face of our natural state, free from the struggle to become what we are not. It is the face of a potentially realized being whose wisdom, qualities, and courage are beyond measure. Seeing both our deeper potential and our hindrances, we begin to understand the cause of our suffering, and we can begin to do something about it. When we practice self-reflection, we take liberation into our own hands. This uncompromising path demands true courage and fearlessness. Going beyond the ordinary notion of self leads directly to the truth of our Buddha essence, our true face, and to freedom from suffering. The spookiness of ego mind. Holding to an ordinary notion of self, or ego, is the source of all our pain and confusion. The irony is that when we look for the self that we're cherishing and protecting, we can't even find it. The self is shifty and ungraspable. When we say, I'm old, we're referring to our body as self. When we say, my body, the self becomes the owner of the body. When we say, I'm tired, the self is equated with physical or emotional feelings. The self is our perceptions when we say, I see, and our thoughts when we say, I think. When we can't find a self within or outside of these parts, we may then conclude that the self is that which is aware of all these things, the knower or mind. But when we look for the mind, we can't find any shape or color or form. This mind that we identify as the self, which we could call ego mind, controls everything we do. Yet it can't actually be found, which is somewhat spooky, as if a ghost were managing our home. The house seems to be empty, but all the housework has been done. The bed has been made, our shoes have been polished, the tea has been poured, and the breakfast has been cooked. The funny thing is that we never question this. We just assume that someone or something is there. But all this time, our life has been managed by a ghost, and it's time to put a stop to it. On one hand, ego mind has served us, but it hasn't served us well. It has lured us into the suffering of samsara and enslaved us. When ego mind says, get angry, we get angry. When it says, get attached, we act out our attachments. When we look into the slavish arrangement we have with our ego mind, we can see how it pressures us, plays tricks on us, and causes us to do things that bring undesirable consequences. If you want to stop being a slave of a ghost, you must demand that ego mind show its face. No true ghost will show up when it hears this. You can practice this simple meditation throughout the day. Whenever you don't know what to do with yourself, challenge your ego mind to show its face. When you're cooking your dinner waiting for the bus, challenge your ego mind to show its face. Do it especially when ego mind overwhelms you, when you feel threatened, fearful, or enslaved by it. Just straighten your posture and challenge ego mind. Don't be gullible, wiggly, or spineless. When you challenge ego mind, be firm but gentle, penetrating but never aggressive. Just say to your ego mind, show me your face. When no mind shows up saying, here I am, ego mind will begin to lose its hold on you and your struggles will lighten up. See if this isn't true. Of course, maybe your mind does have a face and your experience will be different. But if you don't find a mind with a face, you won't take your struggle so seriously, and all of your pain and suffering will lessen. When we question ego mind directly, it is exposed for what it is, the absence of everything we believe it to be. We can actually see through the seemingly solid ego mind or self. But what are we left with then? We are left with an open, intelligent awareness, unfettered by a self to cherish or protect. This is a primordial wisdom mind of all beings. Relaxing into this discovery is true meditation, and true meditation brings ultimate realization and freedom from suffering.
We as a human being have identity and also characteristics, as well as also our mind functions in different modes. Just like in the movie, we see images, character, and different roles being played, and different dramas happening. But beyond the colors, beyond the images, there's just simple, open, white screen. When we do try to examine our mind, particularly try to examine our sense of self-importance, the clinging to the self. In the beginning, maybe perhaps there is a little bit of a discomfort to do that, so since there is no habit of doing such things, since the habit is always assuming there is a self, and there is therefore the need to cling to the self, and therefore to actually go on with the business of the self as usual. But when we do look at it, to see what is this grasping to the self made of? We don't find anything. And when we don't find anything, what's left out there is just simple, luminous mind. Luminous mind without a sense of identity of a self. And then from there, if you actually see, gives a birth to all of our intelligence to know. With knowing, anything comes from this luminous mind. Being able to apply our mind in any way, in a positive way, comes from this luminous mind. So, to be able to know that there is that selfless, luminous mind as our true nature gives us a much more courage, much more of a sense of delicacy to be able to look at our own mind and examine it and to see whether it is something that exists, as to even hold on to. And when there is not, then to be able to let go and to be able to be with the selfless, luminous mind, which actually gives birth to the intelligence or any positive qualities of mind, and to be able to use all of them brings us much more a chance to free ourselves as well as develop ourselves in the path of goodness.
practitioner's approach to life. Looking for ego mind is very important. This is the only way to know that it can't be found. And if we can't find ego mind, we can't find a self. So how can we take all our thoughts, emotions, and experiences so personally? I remember my first experience of selflessness. I felt a strong sense of freedom and a deep appreciation of how fundamentally perfect things could be if I didn't let myself get in the way. Get in the way and complicate everything. I felt relieved. I felt relieved to bring to light all my useless efforts to maintain a self. People tend to appreciate nature. We associate the natural world with beauty, that which is pure and untouched. When we see someone cutting trees or digging in the wilderness, it disturbs us. We can realize the beauty of our own inner nature when we stop manipulating everything that crosses our path as a way to fortify a sense of self. This is a practitioner's approach to life. If you think about it, when we grasp a self, how can we possibly practice self-reflection? Everything becomes personal. Our pain, our anger, our shortcomings. When we take thoughts and emotions personally, they torture us. Looking at our thoughts and emotions in this way is like rubbing our nose in something unpleasant. What purpose does it serve other than to create more pain? This is not the kind of looking we're speaking of here. With the view of selflessness, we can enjoy whatever arises in our awareness. We can accept that everything that arises is a result of our past actions or karma, but it is not who we are. Utilizing thoughts and emotions. Thoughts and emotions will always arise. The purpose of practice is not to get rid of them. We can no more put a stop to thoughts and emotions than we can put a stop to the worldly circumstances that seemingly turn for or against us. We can, however, choose to welcome and work with them. On one level, they are nothing but sensations. When we don't solidify or judge them as good or bad, right or wrong, favorable or unfavorable, we can utilize them to progress on the path. We utilize thoughts and emotions by watching them arise and dissolve. As we do this, we see that they are insubstantial. When we are able to see through them, we realize they can't really bind us, lead us astray, or distort our sense of reality. And we no longer expect them to cease. The very expectation that thoughts and emotions should cease is a misconception. We can free ourselves from this misconception in meditation. In the sutras it says, "What good is manure if not to fertilize sugarcane crops?" Similarly, we can say, what good are thoughts and emotions? In fact, all of our experiences, if not to increase our realization. What prevents us from making good use of them are the fears that come from our self-importance. Therefore, the Buddha taught us to let things be, without feeling threatened or trying to control them. Just let things arise naturally and let them be. When ego mind becomes transparent through meditation, we have no reason to be afraid of it. This greatly reduces our suffering. We may actually develop a passion for seeing all aspects of our mind. This attitude is at the heart of the practice of self-reflection.
My southern poetry is about to get worsened with this microphone. But I have a choice. In any situations, whenever there is pain or discomfort, we always think we have to react in the usual way without a choice. We have to resort to our habits. But in reality, there's much choice. And the choice has to be understood